All right. I just hit record. You just hit play. And here we are. This is Jay Brown Yoga Talks podcast. My name is Jay Brown. If this happens to be your first time here, let me welcome you. Everyone else, what's up? I hope this moment is finding you reasonably well. If you were here last week, then you might recall I was talking about things coming round again. And that is certainly true for us today here on the show. This time last year, I attended the inaugural Berkshire Yoga Festival, and I recorded a podcast from there. And the topic of that conversation had a lot to do with people wanting to come back together and like what the state of like in-person events like yoga festivals was. And there was a real feeling at the festival of excitement because it was a super fun time and people showed up and we had a yoga festival, which just hadn't happened in a lot of years. Well, a few weeks ago, I attended the second annual Berkshire Yoga Festival, and I once again recorded a podcast at the festival, which you're going to listen to today. This time it was with the founder of the festival, Andrew Tanner, who has been on the show a number of times before. But this time he and I discussed not so much the yoga festival as a new project that he started called the American Yoga Council. And I don't want to give too much away because Andrew and I talk about it, but for years, Andrew's been coming on this show to talk initially about the Yoga Alliance and aspects of standards and just like professional development for yoga teachers. I do think that Andrew is someone in the yoga world who has played a role in a lot of people's careers. He's consulted a lot of people on how to advance themselves as yoga teachers. He's got a lot of business sense and he's been involved in a lot of different yoga centers and just in general in the industry. And he and I have had an ongoing conversation over the years, specifically about trade organizations and how it might be possible to create something that would help yoga teachers more than what we currently have. But I have to say, over the years, those conversations haven't really amounted to much. And in any case, I don't want to give too much away. Recently, Andrew has been going around and talking to a lot of people, not just me, about this idea that he has now officially launched, the American Yoga Council. And I'll let our conversation spell out what some of the ideas are that he's putting on the table. And I will spend a little time on the other side saying a few more thoughts about it because I've had a lot more time to think about it since we recorded this. However, I will just say that in general, the yoga festival this year was really wonderful again. As I understand it, there was twice as many people as there was last year, but to be real, it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel more crowded. I think they had more like outdoor tent spaces, which was kind of a funny thing as an aside for me. It was like maybe 2 weeks before the festival that I had been in a teacher song of mine and was talking about how I didn't really like practicing or teaching outside. That I felt like it was harder to have an intimate feeling because everything was so spread out and there's so much unpredictability when you're outside. And then, of course, when I got to the festival, it turned out I had been assigned to this outdoor space. And I was like, okay. And then not only that, it also had like just like a little stage that they had built for the teacher, which is another little peeve of mine. Like I don't like when I feel like I'm standing on a stage. And then they also were using like Madonna mics, like the ones that you wear on your head that go right in front of your mouth. And I normally like the clip-on instead of the Madonna mic. So I was like, oh my God, the three things that I don't like, they were all put right there in front of me. And it was sort of that thing of the universe putting all the things in front of you at once that would normally derail it. But I'm happy to say it didn't work, didn't derail it. I, in fact, just kind of embraced it. And ultimately, a really cool thing that happened was right next to the outdoor tent space that I was teaching my class in was a tent where they were selling gongs and singing bowls. So during both of my sessions, we literally had a sound bath going on. So it actually worked out just fine. And I really enjoyed it. Anybody listening who came to my sessions, shout out to you. Although I have to say, one of the big differences for me this year was the makeup of who was in my sessions. Last year, I asked how many people listened to the podcast. And I would say a good 30 or 40% of the people who were in the room were podcast listeners. There was a good percentage of people who were there because they listened to the podcast and they wanted to come hang out. This year, I think I had 40 people in my first session, if I recall, and only 3 of them were podcast listeners. The rest of them were people who just came for the festival and then just liked the title of my session, Gentle is the New Advanced. But they didn't really know me at all, which was real interesting because it was more like what it was like to go to a festival in older times, When I used to do bigger venues and bigger things like that, it was before people were listening to the podcast, and it was always that experience of a bunch of new people you've never met before. And I haven't had that in a while, and I had that again this couple weeks ago at the festival. And also, I really got to spend some time with my friend Leslie Kamenoff and his partner Lydia. Shout out to them. So for me personally, my experience at the festival this year was great. I enjoyed myself. I felt like the sessions went really well. And overall, it seemed like the festival went really well. And as I mentioned, I recorded this talk with Andrew. And in this talk, you'll hear we discuss this new project of his. There's a lot of aspects to it. It's in a beta phase right now, but I think it's an interesting conversation for us to be having right now. And I was very happy to have it with Andrew at the festival live. You'll hear it has that kind of feel. We had an audience. We were outside at this outdoor stage, and I just felt like we captured something about the festival and certainly about this new American Yoga Council. So I was happy to have recorded this with Andrew, and I'm pleased to be sharing it with you today. Real quick before we get to it, let me mention that if you're enjoying this show and you want to connect with me in other ways outside of just listening, there's opportunities for us to do that. I've got ongoing live classes and a weekly discussion group. I've got on-demand videos, and maybe you would want to gain access to the full-length archives and help support the ongoing creation of this show with a podcast premium subscription. You can find all of my stuff at jbrownyoga.com. Okay, I think we will leave it there. Let's get to it. Let's go live to the Berkshire Yoga Festival 2025 and listen to this conversation I had with Andrew Tanner.
Hey, you made it. All right. How's everyone doing? Can you hear us okay? Cool.
Are we ready to go? Are we going?
We're speeding? All right.
All right.
Can I welcome everyone and then you kick it off?
Andrew, that sounds fine to me, sir.
All right. Welcome, everyone. First of all, so cool. Day 3 of the Berkshire Yoga Festival. We made it to here. Woo! It's been a wild ride. Thank you all for all the support you see of all the volunteers, all the key members of the teams that are kind of behind the scenes making everything happen. This is a really special event for me because we're not just. I feel like I have a toddler, which is the Berkshire Yoga Festival with my business partner Scott, and then we decided to have another baby, which was to launch a second company called the American Yoga Council, which is basically launched yesterday or the day before. Yeah. All right. And what's weird about it, or not weird about it, is, or I guess what's meaningful about it, is that it's been something that me and Jay Brown have been talking about for way too long.
I have a ritual when I have had someone who's been on the show a bunch of times, as you have. In fact, I think you may now have the record for most visits with this one.
This will be my fifth one, right?
Now, I will preface that by saying only because your first visits were in your capacity when you were with YA.
Right.
So it's sort of, I feel like this is a different iteration of you. But I was looking back, because I always like to look at the times that you've been on and what the topics were. So the first time you came on was in 2016, and we discussed the new yoga therapy terminology policy that got announced. Some of you are nodding your heads. Maybe you remember when that happened. It caused a bit of a stir. Andrew came on. I remember it was a little contentious because you were like a spokesman for YA, and I was like, not sure I was understanding what was going on. But as time went on, it changed, and then you were in charge of the standards review project, and we came on and we talked about that. And then we had a conversation just like this with a live audience, which I don't do a lot of, but you and I did that at the last Yoga Journal conference.
Yeah, the last Yoga Journal conference in New York City.
In 2017, and the title of it was The Future of Yoga.
Right.
And the future of yoga looked very different then.
Yeah, no one talked about AI. No one talked about, online yoga.
No.
We were just barely.
No, and you were still hamstrung in terms of, I think, your freedom with which to speak.
From work, I worked for the Yoga Alliance. That's YA parlance. Probably half the audience is like super yoga dorks like us, and then half is just like, well, we're here at this weird festival.
All right, well, we won't speak in such insider terms then. What I'd say to anybody who's not familiar, Andrew is someone who's been having conversations with me, and I think with a lot of other folks in the yoga world, about the state of the industry, and I think a lot of people's dismay with the trade organizations that have come about over the years. There's been so many different iterations of that, but the conversation has always been, okay, rather than bash what is happening, which we don't like, what would be the thing that you would do instead? Like, what's the alternative option? And frankly, I kind of washed my hands with it, because I just felt like you couldn't really find consensus. There's so many different diverse traditions of yoga. The idea that you're going to find one standard that that's going to apply to everybody never made sense to me. The idea that there's going to be like a yoga police that are going to make sure everybody's doing good yoga or whatever. Right. All these things. My friend over here is laughing. Me too. So I've become very skeptical about it and kind of stopped talking about it on the show, because I'm just like, you know what? I don't think there's anything really fruitful here anymore. And then Andrew's been brewing this thing up and like talking in everybody's ear about it. And I do think that there's some really new things that you're putting on the table. So I guess for people listening, why do you think we need to have a new entity or organization for yoga teachers?
Thank you, Jay. And first of all, for those who are here live, Jay Brown podcast, amazing guy, great podcast for yoga world. Why I felt this is the issue is my whole adult career, my whole adult life has been about helping yoga teachers and studio owners make a living doing what they love. Like, I don't know why it's my dharma or purpose or whatever, but it's just the thing that has been handed to me as the role I've always had. And I think when I was at Yoga Alliance, I was there in a very sincere capacity, trying to change the organization, trying to we added the social credentialing piece. We tried to make change. I really believe that things are worth saving and improving and trying to change and fix them. And so when it comes to yoga, I think that when people first get into yoga, they're like, oh, I love yoga. It's amazing. This is like changing my life. It's the best thing ever. Then you get really into yoga. Maybe you do a teacher training, and maybe a few years after that, you get like the jaded yoga teacher experience, which I think many of us, some people may be in it, some people have gone through it. I see a lot of smirks. And because you realize okay, we're operating in America and this, society with all kinds of weird incentive structures, and it's hard to make a living and do so in a way that doesn't feel like you're selling your soul. And
the industry's just changed.
Yeah, and a lot of change.
Rapidly.
And not a lot of yoga teachers are great at business stuff, No. So I just think, I'll just say this. I've been through loving yoga, being disgusted by everything, and then loving it again, and being like, oh my God, this is the best ever. We got it, with all of its good parts and bad parts, this is still one of the best things for people in the world. And I say to people sometimes, like, okay, the US, they say 9% of Americans are practicing yoga or practice yoga. Well, why can't we make it 30%? Like, okay, I guess yoga's not perfect, but I think most of us can agree it's really helpful for the vast majority of people.
All right, wait a second. Wait, I'm just talking.
All right, go
We're
for it.
We're going to do this old school, like you said.
Yeah.
And
I said, Jay, we didn't prepare anything. I said, go at me, man.
That part that you just pointed to,
yeah.
That's a little bit of like the technology thing that you want to do to grow things. Let's put a pin in that, because I've got some issues there that we should discuss.
Great.
But I think that the parts of it that are most intriguing to me, which is kind of where I want us to go first, the main big thing that stands out to me first is the revenue share component thing.
Sure.
Because I think that's the thing where, I know I've trained a lot of yoga teachers over the years myself, and registering and people maintaining their registration. At some point, the question is, well, why do I have this registration? What is this really doing for me? And a lot of times, we don't really have a good answer. Like, they don't have a good answer either when you ask them, honestly. And they're probably going to listen to this, and with respect. I'm not trying to bash anybody.
You're talking about Yoga Alliance?
I'm talking about Yoga Alliance. Yeah. But, the membership dues go in there. It goes into a black box, and it's an investment portfolio. You can go on the website and look at their tax statements. They've got all millions of dollars in an investment portfolio. When you've got yoga teachers who are like struggling to try to feel like they had making a living for $30,000 or $40,000 a year or whatever.
Yep.
And so the big difference is what you're seeming to do something very different than that. So speak to that.
Okay, so our core value as a software company is generosity, followed by transparency, followed by right livelihood. Hell yeah. And what that means is we start by, if you really care about something, you can make things happen with less resources and more intelligently designed. And so we're going to give 50% of the money back. So basically, you're a yoga school, you create a yoga teacher training or whatever it is, or even if you're just a senior yoga teacher, you're someone that says, I'm going to be a yoga teacher from age 25 to age 75, right? And you're going to try to make that your life. Then 40% of all the dues that come in, the membership dues from graduates of your training, or even people that list you as mentor, that you yourself agree are a student you are a mentor of, you will get the commission from that. We use an algorithm to distribute it, kind of like Spotify. And the idea is every yoga teacher should have a retirement fund. I remember, right? I was talking to Jurian Hughes, who's a yoga teacher in the Berkshires. She's been teaching, I won't say how old she is, but she's been teaching for a while. And she's really, I think, a very successful yoga teacher, a leader of Kripalu yoga teacher trainings. And I was trying to give her business advice and support as a friend. And I asked her, does she have a retirement fund? And she said, no. And I was like, okay, every yoga teacher should have a retirement fund. And that's the start of it.
I think that's a great idea. I don't have a retirement fund. I don't know a lot of yoga teachers who do. I'm a little skeptical that this revenue stream would be the retirement fund, but I think I get your point. I guess what I would say is I feel like you didn't sell it in the way that I think it's really important.
Sell it for me.
I'm not going to try to sell for you, but I think to me what it is, it's a revenue share. So all these years you put in your time as a yoga teacher and you develop your teaching and your intellectual property, if you like to think of it that way, and then you develop a teacher training, which is usually like the kind of the ultimate expression of what you do as a teacher, because you're really sharing your whole process of what you do as a teacher. And a lot of times that's become a primary way for yoga centers to make their income sometimes, which is an issue which we've discussed before. But the idea that, okay, I'm going to certify someone and they're going to maintain registration in a trade organization, and those annual membership dues, I get a share of that.
Absolutely.
That feels way more generous to me than what we've had.
Yeah, we're going to imagine if half of the revenue that Yoga Alliance has generated over the last 25 years was just given back automatically.
Now
millions of dollars.
I'm going to also assume, since it says on your website that transparency is one of your big overriding principles, that the other 50%, we're going to know where that goes. Yeah?
Yeah, it's going to go to, so this is actually the other thing. With Yoga Alliance, it's just, and I'm not trying to bash them. I actually think there's still a purpose that they can serve, but the badge that you get, right, from Yoga Alliance or from us or whoever, that's not the only thing that we do. So we're building an app that is really to help, like our core values, our mission, I would say, are to help yoga teachers make a living, right? So our registry should be the easiest place in the world to find the right yoga teacher for you. So, imagine like LinkedIn and Ancestry.com had a yoga baby. You love studying yoga with Leslie Kaminoff, and you're visiting Denver for the weekend, and you want to find a teacher that has been trained in the desk guitar lineage. Well, right now, how could you do that? You Google yoga studios, and you kind of don't. It's just some big mishmash. It takes a lot of research, and it's really hard for people. But imagine where you could just say, you could follow the lineage because you can see how people are connected. So I only say that because I think not only are we going to, when you say where does the other 50% go, it goes to pay for the creation of this software and app that is going to help yoga teachers get more business. And that's when I first said about how I want more people to practice yoga, we need to use technology to make it easier for people to practice yoga.
I get it. I think if you could make a more useful way for people to find the yoga that's appropriate for them, I think that would be a good thing. I think that would help the teachers who are involved with it as well. I suppose the thing that I'm also very curious about, because the conversation we've had over the years with the Yoga Alliance is around standards and kind of the myth of standards and this idea of 200-hour standards and people who've done 200-hour trainings. We all kind of know it's this nebulous thing. And then during the pandemic, the online learning thing happened, and now the contact hours and non-contact hours, it all kind of morphed, nobody knows what it is anymore, right?
Well,
what I will say is,
some people know what he's saying, right?
Some people, what I will say is that what's practically happened is that individual teachers want to have integrity and be authentic in what they do. So even though they've played within this system of 200 hours, 300 hours, and are registered and do that because if you feel like you have to,
right?
Within that, people are really kind of developing what their standard is within, because the 200 hours, you can have 20 hours of yoga philosophy, it could be anything. Because within yoga philosophy, it could be a lot of different things. So the idea is you have come up with some different ideas. How are you handling the idea of trying to create one objective standard that everybody's supposed to fit into?
That's a great question. So I've been thinking about this question since 2014 when I was a volunteer board member at Yoga Alliance. And I was in a board meeting, and one of the exercises we did in the board meeting was to split up into teams, and one team was working on the Yoga Alliance, brand or whatever, I don't know. And the other team was come up with a stealth competitor to Yoga Alliance. That was my team. And I was so pumped about this idea. So I got at that time, it wasn't a revolutionary idea. It's been done before about competency-based standards. It always bugged me about hours. Hours, checking off a box, a certain number of hours of this or that. I just think hours doesn't make any sense. I think what matters is the teacher competent, and is the person saying they're competent? And at some point you have to just keep going up the ladder. And at some point you have to start with someone who's grandparented in, who has a lot of social proof that we all agree they're competent, right? And so then you also can use tools to use transparency to say, okay, I am the J. Brown Yoga School, and here's what I believe a competent yoga teacher is. Bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3, etc. And then when you decide to certify someone, you have to believe that they fit all those things. Because what I've seen happen, I used to own yoga studios. When you're trying to run a yoga studio and you have 15 people in your teacher training, and there's someone who's totally not competent, and you have a lot of pressure to graduate them and certify them because you don't want to deal with the refund or the challenge. There's just all these bad incentives that are really hard. And so I think that the whole system of how yoga studios are reliant on teacher trainings, this new system of standards changes that. And practitioner standards can be another thing that can help studios make money, but
so let me
go ahead.
Stop for a second.
Sure.
So, all right, because there is an issue there. I hear what you're saying, but if someone pays thousands of dollars for a yoga teacher training, and then they're like, I'm sorry, you don't pass, how is what you're doing gonna address that?
Well, I mean,
how is it gonna make it easier for someone to not pass someone even though they paid?
Because first of all, I think our system allows for a real revolutionary way to, not revolutionary, let's not overblow it. It's the way that yoga used to be taught. Like, my first time teaching yoga was my teacher saying, Andrew, I am sick, will you teach the class? I didn't have a certificate, right? So why do, and I had studied with this guy for years and spent time living with him a little bit, and I think there's actually, when I talked to Nikki Myers, similar story. Some of the best yoga teachers in the world, they started teaching because their teacher asked them to teach, and the relationship between teacher and student is such a powerful thing. And we've created this system that's like a money system of, okay, I'm going to create a training, it'll have a cohort, make a bunch of money, and then there's all this pressure to graduate them. I would say why it helps is we can separate the cohort training from the certification part. So for example, like Shiva Ray, I remember I talked to her years ago at Yoga Alliance. She travels all around the world teaching yoga. She's like, Andrew, I have people studying with me for over 20 years. They come into my retreats, but they live in Greece. They can't make it through 200 hours of my thing. Can I just give them a certificate? And the answer was no. And I thought that's just so silly. It's like, why don't we just say what the competencies are, and then we let the teachers and the schools have so much freedom and creativity to decide what the real process is and individualize it the way that I think it will help improve the quality of yoga teachers, and also it will allow us to be more in truth and integrity with
it's just
our
more
students.
honest. It's just more honest. Yeah, I think it's more honest. And I guess I see what you're saying, because I looked at the new system. You put a bunch of stuff up on the website that I hadn't seen before. So just like in the last hour before I was getting ready to talk to you, I was on the website, and there's a whole bunch of new stuff on there. And you laid out all the levels that you've come up with. Now, how set is that? Is that still open?
No, I would say, so we're launching in beta now. We're beta at least through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Anyone who joins now, it's 50% off. The membership isn't just to get your stamp. It's also there are features like, we're building a system that will help you with your business.
Yeah.
It's $54 a year for teachers. It's $108 a year for teachers. It's $214 for schools. But then it's half off that right now. Mm-hmm. So school can join for $108. And where were we going with that?
I was going to talk about the new level,
the standards,
the new standard system that you created.
We're just
let me say one thing. Let me preface it before you. Let me preface it, because I want to. You've got some stuff that's prepared. I'm happy for you to say it, but let me say one thing about it that I noticed that I thought was significant, because it goes to what you just said, which is you want to get back to a little bit more of how some of the people that we most admire became teachers before there was 200 hours. And what that was based on was somebody like showing up consistently and just demonstrating practice and an ongoing relationship over time. So it does seem to me that the new system, it is based, I know you call it like, scope of practice and experience. Yeah. These like two things that are like descriptors of each level, but it is roughly based on like how much time someone spends with the teacher.
No.
And then, I guess the sort of, in the view of the senior teacher who's the mentor in the relationship, how much they feel confidence in this person's deepening of their practice with it.
Yes, great question. So, and by the way, for those who are going to listen to this podcast later, like Jay and I, we were joking about the keep cutting each other off. It's just for fun.
We always do that.
Yeah. So just the standards right now are not set in stone. I would say the next 6 months, we're building an advisory council. We're getting more people on it. We have people with different levels of expertise and standards and who think about competency-based education. What's the right term for that? Proficiency-based education. So we have, and we're thinking about, so where we're thinking about it now is that imagine that when you think about a yoga teacher, like I like to make things really plain English so that because it's all for the general public. The general public are the people that are going to take a yoga class. They're going to look at a standard and say to themselves, do I want to pray with that, go with that teacher or this teacher? So the standard has to make sense to them. So level 1 teacher is someone who could teach a group class at a gym in a particular style. They could teach a class. They're probably not going to give a bunch of assists to people.
Like the equivalent of a 200-hour kind of thing.
Maybe. I don't know if you need a 200-hour training. I don't think hours matter anymore. I really don't. I mean, I'm not going to say...
what we talk about now.
Maybe that's what we think about now is 200 hour. And on our website, it says like a 200-hour.
Yeah.
But again, if someone's been studying with you for 5 years, and then like you give them a few assignments to do that are the graduation requirements. So that's level 1. A level 2 teacher, let me just kind of go through the levels real quick.
Go ahead.
So the level 2 teacher is someone who could teach a group class, but they also know how to work with an individual one-on-one in a particular style or lineage. So they're not gonna, it's not like, this is actually what's really important. The general public has no clue. They just think every yoga teacher is the same. They don't get like a Kundalini teacher and a Deskachar teacher or a Vinyasa, that are so different.
Didn't we miss one? What's this practitioner training?
Oh yeah, I forgot
we missed one. That's new.
So the first standard is to have a practitioner training, and
that's for someone who just does a training but isn't teaching?
No, it's like, let's say you own a yoga studio and you have a bunch of students who are coming to your yoga classes, and you can sense they're interested in going deeper, right? And they want maybe some kind of transformational experience, the kind of thing that the yoga teacher training has become a proxy for. Instead of those people just want to deepen their yoga. And by the way, after they deepen their yoga, they're so much better prepared to learn teaching techniques. Like learning teaching methodology when you haven't deepened your yogic knowledge and like it's all flowing.
So it's to encourage a basis of practice first.
Correct. And on top of that, it's revenue for the schools. So it helps with I think there are these bad incentive structures in the current system. Right now, all the yoga schools are trying to make a living, and it's hard. And so yoga teacher training became the thing to make their profit margin work. You know that, right?
Because if you call it a workshop, it's hundreds of dollars, but if you call it a teacher training, it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah, so if you put a really beautiful certificate on it, and you put it on a really amazing looking website, and I think our branding is pretty amazing. Yeah. And then we're trying to help and do the marketing for the schools. So every school gets their own page. It's really beautiful. It's really well designed, and obviously we're just getting started, but we are going to use that 50% of the money to keep building this tool to grow yoga and help the schools. And if we can encourage more people to become yoga practitioners, like I have friends in the audience who are not yogis, but I think they would love to do they would never do a yoga teacher training, no offense, guys, but maybe they would do a yoga practitioner training, because they are looking for a change or a shift in their health and well-being. And I think the 200-hour standard just encouraged lots of studios to do that as the program. So we're going to also, part of our company is every other week, business mastermind calls, business support calls, coaching calls, so that membership includes that, where we help you work on developing your programs.
I get it. So it does give like another item on the menu. Like you can do practitioner trainings instead of teacher trainings as well.
Yeah. So then we have practitioner trainings, then level 1 teacher. A level 2 teacher is someone who might do one-on-ones.
You say 4+ years.
Oh yeah, so you can't get a level 2 certificate until you've been practicing for at least 4 years. Teaching for at least 4 years.
I see.
And the idea behind that is, we're not going to restrict people. We're not the yoga police, right? We don't believe I agree with the Yoga Alliance's policy on non-regulation of yoga as an industry by the government, and I don't think we have to worry about that right now, to be honest. Our government has enough things to do with this. Anyway, that being said, we think that if someone has a level 1 training, they can do privates, but we wanted to create a system that we think would set an example for what a career path would look like, where at the end of that career, you had enough money to make a living, and you had a retirement fund, and you actually had the advice on how to get there, and you did it in the right order. Because so many teachers are trying to market themselves, but honestly, they're not good enough they don't have a product that's developed well enough. And the reason, so the levels that we have, they're also business advice for teachers of how you develop yourself to get to the level where you could be making 6 figures teaching yoga.
Oof, okay.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. I got Jay excited. Jay,
I don't know if I'm excited.
Oh, he's...
Here's what I would say.
Okay,
I'm with you a lot of the way there. I like the idea that it's based on time that people have put in and practice that people have put in, because I do think that's the testament of the gravitas that a teacher brings and the value that a teacher brings. Anybody can learn a sequence, but someone's life experience and who they are as a person and how they live their practice is what gets brought in the room with them. And I think that should be valued. So I like that that's what I feel like this is attempting to do.
Yes.
It's attempting to acknowledge that people who've spent a long time in practice, we should value them. Here's where I'm skeptical, because, all right, so for instance, there's level 1, there's level 2, there's level 3, and you added another layer. So like 1,000-hour kind of idea, or how many years was it? 10 years, 10 plus years. I like that. People who've been 10 years is different than people who've been in for 3 or 4 years.
It's not just 10 years. It's you've taught. You didn't just teach for a few years and then take 6 years off and then teach years again.
But that's sticky, because what if somebody taught some classes here or there, or compared to somebody who taught 15 classes a week?
Absolutely.
It's not the same.
We actually are going to track that as best we can. But at the end of the day, you have to trust people at some point, and then you have to build other features in the technology that help the public understand the quality of the yoga teacher. So the standard is one thing.
Okay.
But then there's other things that you can build into the registry when a person is looking for a yoga teacher, who was their mentor, or we don't have this feature yet, just but we are building a review process as well. And again, transparency is a core value. So I hope to also have a wiki on there, so you can understand what you're getting into. Schools have to be transparent about their pricing, their policies, their refund policies, all that stuff. So transparency isn't just in the standard, it's in the software. And the goal is just, the better we can educate people, the more quickly they can make informed decisions about and find the right teacher for them. I know people who are oh, I got this back thing, I got this thing, but they don't know how to find the right teacher. Every year at Thanksgiving, they're coming up to me I want to get into yoga, what should I do? And you're oh, where do you live? Okay, what's your, so I think that they go hand in hand, is what I mean.
Okay.
And it's not going to be perfect.
No. You know me. I'm just looking at this from my standpoint.
I wanted you to be the first interview, not just because we're friends, but even though we're friends, you can see how she's grilling me. And I don't mean me personally. I mean, you care so much about this.
Let's just be real now, because the issue with the past organizations is there's often a lot of very fancy talk. Yeah, but the reality ends up being something different. So I guess the only other question I have, again, I'm with you on the way that you're looking to develop these kind of standards based on time and competency. I like competency more than hours. And I think you're looking to do that by having it be more like years investment rather than like logging all the hours that you spent on anatomy or whatever.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. You have a level 4 yoga teacher on your standards, and I noticed one of the things on that level 4 was the test. What was it? You have like a test. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So here's the idea right now. First of all, let me say, just for anyone listening, if you are passionate about this, if you're getting as excited about this as me and Jay, like, we want your feedback, we want your ideas. Like, I wouldn't say none is set in stone. The core idea of competency-based standards, scope of practice, like the core system is set in stone, but the actual, what the rules are for each level, we're very open to that. I think we're starting with letting people get certified at level 1, level 2, and 3. No one can get a level 4 certificate yet. Because what we wanted to do, the ultimate goal, I like having my cake and eating it too. And I think that this new way of doing things, it's very free market. It's very like each school is doing their own thing. But then I do believe there's also a collective, and there is, not that the collective can come to consensus on a lot, because when I was with the yoga standards,
it's always been the issue.
Yeah, from 2017 to 2019, I ran the standards review process for Yoga Alliance, talked to hundreds of yoga teachers, many of whom are here, and thousands of people submitted, their opinions, and it's like a Kumbh Mela. It's crazy. It's just like, and so, however, I do think that American yoga, and this is why we're starting with American yoga, and not like, we don't want to speak for India. I think that we shouldn't, and I think that, we're starting here. But in American yoga, I think American yoga could actually have its own identity, which would be some kind of standardized tests around knowledge of anatomy and physiology and safety.
Okay, so that's what the core competencies exam is.
Yes. But
who's making the core competencies exam?
This will be created through the collective. So I'll say this. When I was doing that work with Yoga Alliance, I co-wrote 8 white papers on these different subjects. I think you were involved too, right? Were you? Yeah.
It's loosely.
Scope of practice, code of conduct. I actually think we did a great job with those things.
Some of those were okay.
Yeah. But I did present some different ideas that were not adopted, and then I left shortly after. And so I think that actually the consensus of that whole exercise was informative of this process, and I think around certain issues. Because, by the way, to get around things, like people always said, well, does Dharma Mitra need to be, know anatomy and physiology? He's clearly a master yoga teacher. Been teaching for 50 plus years. I don't think he would be able, I'm sorry, Dharma. I don't know whether he'd be able to pass the anatomy and physiology exam.
It's like Americans trying to pass like the immigration test that immigrants have to take about their own country.
Right.
They don't know. We wouldn't pass that test, most of us.
Right.
Similarly.
So how we get around that, though, is we also have a master credential. And that's something where the organization and the advisory council to the organization can make decisions on every year, and like have a voting process and have a kind of a consensus process, just like they do with like the Hall of Fame of baseball or something like that. So, but the level 4, I think that, we started this by talking about yoga therapy. I'm going to say something pretty provocative.
If you are hearing this message, then you're listening to the free version of Jay Brown Yoga Talks. To hear the rest of our conversation, please subscribe to Podcast Premium at jbrownyoga.com/premium.